Hello there. Thank you for joining us today. You are logged into the Rise of Millennials, a major opportunity for accounting and tax pros. I will be your presenter today. My name is Liza Vetter, and I manage the team of account advisors here at CPA Site Solutions. We have about 150 people joining us today, and we're still waiting for a handful of people, so we're going to give them another minute or two to get started. Take this opportunity to get to know your interface. This is a great tool because you can go ahead and you can chat us questions in this mode, and so we can answer questions in real time, and we can, if we can juggle it, and we can also connect you with a salesperson right at the end of the presentation if you're curious about some of the products that we support the solutions that we're going to suggest in this presentation with. So go ahead, take a look while we're waiting 1 or 2 minutes at the chat function. Just for fun, while we're waiting for people, I want to see if anybody can figure out how to use that chat. So we're going to be talking about millennials today. So I want to see if anybody can let us know if they identify as a millennial. So I'm just going to watch the chat and see. If not, if you identify as a baby boomer, I want to see that too. I see a little bit of activity. This is good. I see some people responding. And if you're a Gen Xer, give us a little chat and let me know that that's you. Really, we're going to talk about all three of those generations today. Not a millennial. I identify as millennial. Gen Xer? Nope. Older. I want to know what older is. I'm a millennial. Woo! Let's see. Baby boomer, Gen X, between millennial and Gen X. Yeah, that's actually, I'm almost to that cusp. That's a fun one. There's been some talk that we have, those are called Xennials. People are right in between, millennial, Gen X. Good. Hey, you know what? Shout out to millennials and Gen X is showing up on time for the digital seminar. I love it. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good. Cool. All right. So we still have a couple people logging on, but we're going to get rolling because we like to respect your time. We've got lots of great information to share today. Again, my name's Liza, and I've been handling digital marketing teams and marketing consulting teams for the past 10 years. And I am a Gen Xer, and we are known as sort of the bridge generation. We do lots of explaining to older generations what millennials are talking about when they, as digital natives, are trying to explain how they like to get information. It's a fun place to be. So I will be your interpreter today. If you have any questions, feel free to stick them in the chat. We've got one other presenter online who's going to try to answer questions or ping them to me. And then we've got some salespeople here too who are going to be able to answer some questions at some point one-on-one. So if you have questions or you want to talk to somebody, put it in that chat and we'll make sure it happens today. So we're going to take about 25 minutes here, and we're going to go through a lot of information. Just so you know, these webinars are always available on our website, and you can always review them, and there'll be a follow-up email you'll get so you can share this with some of your business partners as well. So with no further ado, so just defining what the millennial generation is, here's a broad brush. People like to argue about this, but what you have is sort of baby boomers 40 to 60. Gen Xers are born generally 1960 to 1980. Millennials are born 1980 to 2005. And from 2005 onward, that's Generation Z. I'm trying to figure out what they're going to name the next generation. It sounds like they feel like we've gotten to the end here. Kind of weird branding if you ask me, but that's that. Why do we bring this up? We bring this up because people often don't really think about the fact that millennials are not kids. They are, in some cases, older adolescents, but at the upper end of the range, we are talking about people who are actually staring middle age in the face. These are people who are seasoned professionals in their late 30s, they're heads of households, they're running businesses, and they are very much adults, seasoned professionals, and people who we need to be thinking about when we're growing our business. So generation breakdown. This is important because when we have always thought about building our businesses, traditionally corporations and marketing firms always talked about, who's got the biggest pocket, right? And so for a very long time, that was the baby boomers. But things are changing. So the baby boomers right now represent about 76 million folks, and the Gen X is right behind them at 82. So now Gen X is actually a larger population to be targeting than baby boomers. And then you've got your millennials coming in at 95 million professionals and young people. So this is really interesting because baby boomers don't sort of rule the economy the way that they used to. So now we all have to kind of figure out, all right, how do we have our businesses speak to a variety of different consumers of media, really. So baby boomers still love traditional media, and you'll see that Gen Xers do too. They're still buying newspapers and print magazines. They're both using Facebook. Baby boomers do generally appreciate more traditional sort of business structures, and they're more responsive to traditional marketing activities, and they will often take one referral from a friend when they're trying to figure out who to hire or what sort of thing to buy, right? They'll take that sort of referral very, very, very much to heart. So many of you, well, I've got a lot of younger people on the line here, but our average accountant is 55 years old. And so you all tell us all the time, you grew your business through word of mouth, maybe on the golf course, at PTA meetings, like through your social networks. But that means most of your clients are now also boomers and are probably moving, retiring. They're changing their life, and you might be losing some of those clients. So if you're in that generation, now you have to figure out, okay, all right, now I need a new way to appeal to this younger generation. And they're not going to be naturally in your social sphere. What works to target you isn't going to work to target Gen X and millennials. So when we're talking to you about great techniques for attracting new clients, if your instinct is, I would never respond to that. Well, yeah, that's right. And that's why you're probably getting some good advice, because what you respond to is not what the younger generation is responding to. And I bet the millennials are shaking their head right now saying, yep, that's true. Gen Xers are kind of a hybrid, and they will respond to traditional media and more newfangled digital technology. You will see that as we move towards the millennial generation, people, as we trend younger, millennials are less interested in going to somebody because they have maybe just a big corporate name or a status symbol attached to them. They really are doing more diligence about who they work with, who they spend their money with, and they're a little bit more involved in their communities in some ways. And so they really want to make sure that when they are working with somebody, that they are somebody they can find in the digital space and get some good feedback about the quality of that person's work through their own social circle, who is digital, not necessarily at a face-to-face PTA meeting necessarily, but they're going to check and see what their friends have said about somebody in a social space often. And they are really, really mindful about their money because they have a lot less discretionary money to spend, because Gen Xers and millennials have graduated with lots of debt at the height of financial crises. And so they are very, very mindful about their money. So when they make a purchase, they're super, super, super thoughtful about it, and they want to make sure they're giving their money to somebody who shares their values. I think this is a really great thing about this generation that I really appreciate. So you really have to be real people with them. It's not just good enough to be professional and look polished. They want to know what you're really about. It's a very values-driven personality. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what sets millennials apart, how they make spending decisions, and then what the business owner landscape looks like among that generation. And some of you are going to see yourself here, which is exciting because you guys are some great examples actually of what I'm going to talk about. And then what they look for when they're looking to hire an accounting firm, and how you can market and appeal to them. So if you are actually on this call as a boomer and you're looking for ways to kind of like jump over that generational divide, you'll get some good advice here. If you are a millennial or a Gen Xer running a business, this is going to reinforce some of the things that will probably feel very natural to you, but will remind you of best practices. And then at the end, we'll always talk about what we can do to help you just take some of these best practices and put them into practice right away with very little effort on your part. So that's what we're in the business of doing. So key characteristics of this generation is, I kind of went through this before, they really value transparency in product, good value, well priced. They're not going to pay a lot for something just because. There used to be a period of time where something that was more expensive, people would think, oh, that must be better because it costs more. Millennials are a lot savvier than that, and they will really try to get an understanding of the value of something. So they also do extensive research online. So like I said, it's not just going to be a handshake or one referral. If they get a recommendation from somebody they trust to use you, they're also going to go online and do their diligence to vet that recommendation or that referral. And they like when the person that they're being sent to is really a thought leader and an expert, because this generation grew up with access to so much information and data. They really, really prize that deep thinking. And so they like to see that the people they are working with are really positioning themselves as thought leaders and as experts, and they're sharing that information. This is a generation that wants to share knowledge, and they want you to share knowledge with them, and that is where they're going to be willing to transact business with you. The struggles that they have is they have very large student debt because college has become more and more expensive, and people really have not thought twice about taking on those loans until very recently in our history. And only recently has that become a very challenging transaction where the loans we take aren't necessarily supported by starting salaries. That's an opportunity also, though, to really help people understand how to manage their money really well, and as business managers understand how to leverage the rest of their debt in the most strategic way. They want business consultants on their side, and that is a role that you can fill in a lot of cases. The coolest thing on the slide, though, that you need to know is that they are very likely to be entrepreneurs. And that's a great source of business for you, obviously. And they often have many sources of revenue. They're freelancers. Now, as a parent, you might hear that and think, oh, like, why don't you build one thing and really put down some roots, blah, blah, blah. What you're going to see is that for a lot of these younger freelance business people, they are going to entrepreneurs. They're really going to be thinking of diversification as their security. If they have 4 or 5 different things that they do and a handful of large clients and a sort of a diverse but unified world, perfect example is my baby sister is a wedding photographer, but she also does corporate portrait photography, and she also does videography for events. She does all of these things, and she has a few main clients. And if she loses one of them, and she is very much millennial, she's right in the middle of the generation, if she loses any one of them, it doesn't really matter. She'd have to lose about half of them for it to really become an emergency. Unlike those of us who have jobs at one company, we lose our job, it's a real issue. And a lot of people in this generation really see that their security comes from their diversification, but that means that they're running these businesses that can be really quite challenging. And so they need a lot of help with running their businesses so that they can do what they do best. And somebody else can keep the wheels on the bus in terms of the practical things. And then another reason why many of them make this choice is because these people have had front row seats to what happens when you don't have a job that you enjoy, or you overcommit at a job that you lose suddenly, right? They've seen what happened in the worst parts of our economic history in recent years, since the Great Depression probably. And they really want to make sure that they're enjoying what they do, they have some control over it, and that they can also, have the flexibility to live their life, because you never know what's around the corner. They're not looking to make huge sacrifices early in life because it's going to pay off later. They haven't seen that play out. And so they're not banking on it. And so they're creating different kinds of business models, and it's very interesting, I think. So one of the myths that people talk about, they say, oh, well, millennials are broke. And what's interesting is that's not really true. what is true is that they have a higher debt load and they're entering their wealth accumulation sort of phase of life later. However, they will be outspending baby boomers significantly in the upcoming years. They have the greatest lifetime value of any customer in the market for you, even more than Gen X. They're not super brand loyal. They're not just going to go to a big name. They are going to go to you because they got a referral from a friend who is enthusiastic, and they are absolutely the best people to shout out a good experience that they've had with you. You'll get more business referrals from a happy millennial than anyone else. And they don't respond to just blanket silly marketing that doesn't really speak to them because they're so savvy, especially once they're running businesses. So what they really do is they watch how you run your business, and if they can respect that because they're running their own businesses too, that's when they're going to want to interact with you. And they really like it when you give back. They're really values driven, and they want to know that you are not just looking to, make a buck. They want to know that you're giving back to your community. So it's a generation that wants to know a little bit about who you are personally and what your vision is for a better world, honestly. So let's talk about who they are as business owners. So, let's start workforce. Today, there's about 34% of the workforce is millennials. In just 6 years, millennials are going to make up 75% of the entire workforce. I'm going to let that sink in. And what you're going to see is that they are running massive numbers in the business world. So we're talking really at this point, when you're thinking about business, you should instantly be thinking about millennials. Right now, boomers are selling their businesses and they are selling them to this generation. So if you look at the numbers, just look at overall this is the millennial business owner. So the first chart is millennials versus all companies, and this is just showing you what the revenue trends look like if you split it out. And in some cases, you would think people think, oh, a millennial business owner, it's a small shop, right? No, look at this. For businesses that are in that $500,000 to $1 million of revenue a year, you have more millennials in that space, and they're holding their own. Once you break that 1 million mark, they are holding their own. I mean, look at the 5 million to 10 million column. It's amazing. So similarly, look at how many people they're employing. People who are employing people need payroll. They need all sorts of services, right? Look at how this is spread across all businesses. So basically, this just says, when you think of millennial business, don't think about somebody who's just freelancing and doing some DJing, because people always think that millennials are younger than they are. Remember, your oldest millennial right now is celebrating their 40th birthday next year. So they are running sizable and profitable companies. And so when I'm talking about the things you need to to stay in touch with millennials, you need to realize that these are very serious and very successful business people. So what do they look for? What kind of services do they need? So everybody needs help with taxes. That goes without saying. However, they do prefer a slightly different set of services. So 54% want bookkeeping. And what's interesting, if you look at boomers, that was only about 30% for boomers and 34% for Gen Xers. So bookkeeping is a gateway for you. 22% request that firms handle bill payment for their companies, which is significantly up from 14% and 8% for the older generation. 20% need invoicing, again, up from 8% and 4%, and 31% currently have CFO level consulting services. So I don't know, how many of you are involved in this sort of CFO in a box sort of consulting services, but they love to be able to hire for that kind of expertise earlier on in their businesses, and then sometimes permanently, so they can have that strategic insight and guidance, but not have to hire for that position because generally, they're savvy with their money, right? Do they have the money to pay a six-figure salary multiple times over for that CFO? Not necessarily, but they're smart enough to know what they don't know. And so I know a lot of you are looking to go into business consulting, and if you are, that's great. There's a huge market for you, and it's these folks. So what are they going to look for when they're trying to decide whether or not you're the right fit? Let's take a look at this. I think this is really helpful. Respond to my communications in a timely manner. These are accounting firm traits ranked by Millennials. Respond to my communications in a timely manner, 72%. That's like the first thing on this chart. I know a lot of you are stretched really thin, and that is always a challenge. So what I'm going to say to you is if you plan on being in business for another 10, 15, 20 years, you need to figure out how to speed up your response game. We sell digital marketing here for accountants. It's all we've done for 20 years. And I can tell you, I can send you business all day long through strategic initiatives. One of my biggest challenges is getting you guys to be able to get to a lead fast enough to convert it. So you have to think about that structurally as a business. If you can't ever pick up the phone, maybe you need a call answering service. They're really cheap. If you're dealing with somebody who'd rather chat than call, because a millennial would always rather chat or email rather than call. And also, if you're a millennial on the line and you don't pick up your phone because you don't like it, this is a reminder, get a call answering service. I mean, this really is messages for all of you. But you can also get chat services. There's a million ways you can make sure that somebody gets spoken to quickly, and it's important. The next thing is they want you to be an expert. They want you to provide strategic insight and guidance for the business. So first things first, just get back to me quickly. And then go ahead and be that expert. And I'm going to keep you around if you can really be my expert. I want you to have a full suite of services so I can do all my shopping with you in one place. And I want you to translate complex financial concepts into terminology and reporting I can understand. The thing that I know about this generation anecdotally from working in marketing and talking about this stuff for the last zillion years and really then seeing how the rubber hits the road is that the businesses that these folks are running often germinate from a really unique business problem that people didn't even realize existed because it kind of came up because of a problem in the digital landscape. So a lot of these folks had a brilliant idea and figured out how to launch a business, but didn't necessarily have a traditional business background. Great business acumen, great solution, great salesmanship, but didn't necessarily go to B school. That doesn't mean they're not running a great business, right? But they might need somebody who has that background to interpret things for them and do a little coaching to help them understand how to really run their business. So, being able to be like, hey, I get it. Like you're an entrepreneur, you came up through a different, you went to art school and then you realized that you could do customized paintings for corporations. This is actually a real example. And you could market those online because you're super digitally savvy and you're an amazing oil painter and you understand branding, but you have no idea how to handle the books and you have no idea what any of these terms mean. I'm going to sit down with you. We're going to have a time where I'm going to explain it to you so you can feel empowered. You want to be empowered with knowledge. They don't want you just to do it. And then they want to make sure that you are specifically understand their industry. So the more specific you can be about your skills, the better. That should be part of your brand. Lesser rankings, but still important, are being a part of the local business community, being willing to meet face-to-face if they have an emergency. These folks grew up in a landscape where you could communicate very quickly, so they make that promise to their clients. They want to serve their clients really quickly and be very responsive. So if they have a conundrum, they need you because they want to hold up their agreement that they're going to respond quickly. So it's not that they're impatient, it's that they have created a culture of responsiveness and they expect that with all their business partners. Also, what's interesting here is you see, for some people, they need you to provide the least expensive service available, right? That's down at 15%. So there is a small group of these, folks who are entrepreneurs and really just want bare bones, but that's not the first thing they're asking for. Notice how when we get down to the very bottom here is one of the top accounting firms in the nation, 8%. That's not really the big deal anymore. Really, it's about what you can actually provide. It's not about status and some brand. It's about your brand. So how do we market and appeal to them? So basically, you want to make sure that you are tailoring your approach to the way that this generation interacts with information. You want to deliver a very customizable customer experience. Like, you want to make sure that you're certain that you don't have a one-size-fits-all strategy. That doesn't work well. But you also want to position yourself in a way that's going to resonate in the social media spaces, because that's one of the places where I would say, really starting with Gen X and down, if you can't be vetted with a few dips into Google and social media spaces of that person's preference, Facebook being one of the major ones, it, it will leave a seed of doubt in someone's mind. I've gotten referrals for great businesses from people who I really trust, and then I've gone online and they've had a website, but there's been like nothing else. No reviews, no social media presence, just nothing. And I can't get a feel for them. And it makes me just not want to work with them, because I want to go on your Facebook and I want to see that you just donated to your local humane society. I like that. I'm a dog owner. I want to, okay, I could get along with this person. I want to see that you posted a few things on Instagram. I want to see that you are actually out there. I want to be on Facebook, and I want to see that my best friend follows your page. Oh, that's interesting. She must use your services too, or she wouldn't have bothered following the page. Oh, cool. All right. So now you're getting what I refer to as digital word of mouth. Nothing better than digital word of mouth. So let's drill down a little bit. So how do you actually do this? So first of all, positive online reviews are huge. This is millennials, but I'm going to say Gen X and millennials always look to see what other people are saying. We actually have a solution here at CPA Site Solutions that you may not be aware of, but we can help you take the positive reviews that you get and make sure that they're on your website. And so if that's something you're curious about, you should speak to your account advisor, because we want to make sure that people who love you are talking about it and are posted in all the digital places we can post them. Social media is huge. The thing about social media, besides the fact that it's a good way to just brand yourself in a secondary space and get that digital word of mouth, it gives people the sense that you are current. If you don't have one, people assume that you're just sort of out of it, right? And I would never want to handle financial services with somebody who doesn't seem on top of things, right? It's like you got to be on top of changes all the time, but also gives me a sense of who you are, and it personalizes you, and that's very helpful. Your website. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to assume a lot of you have one of our websites, and for those of you who do, congratulations, you have one of the best websites available to you. If you have a different service provider, or if you have a website with us that you built 10 years ago and we haven't been able to convince you to do a freshen up of the aesthetic, let me tell you, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't have a really beautiful, sophisticated website for somebody to visit. Why is that? It's not silly at all. A really sophisticated, beautiful, up-to-date website says, I'm on top of things. I know what's going on in this world, meaning I know what's going on with tax law changes. I understand all the nuances of being a business owner and how to market in the business space. And like, I'll tell you, a lot of accountants are like, oh, you know, the first line they always want to cut when they're doing business consulting is marketing. They're like, oh, marketing. Well, you can probably put that aside for now and put more money here or there, right? But marketing in the digital space is crucial to your success in a business landscape today where everybody's a digital native. You have to have a solid and invested presence in that space, because it essentially has become your storefront. The younger business owners understand this, they are dedicated to it, and they want to hire people who get it. They want to hire other people who understand there's got to be a baseline of dedication and investment to their digital storefront. It's how people learn who they are and decide whether or not to use them. And so you want to look as sophisticated as they are. And that's really true. They're going to look for somebody who reflects back at them what they are doing. They want to know that you understand what they are doing themselves. If you don't do that, trust me when I tell you, a giant corporation has figured out how to do that, and that's some of your competition, right? But we provide that with no effort from you. So if you are thinking about doing a little freshen up to your site or a little customization, and if you're one of our clients, you should ask about our Diamond package, which has semi-customization for a very reasonable price, which is a way to take a beautiful design that we have and really make it wholly your own. The other thing is search engine optimization. That is the work we do on the back end to make sure that you're always ranking high for the things that you do best. So you really focus on making sure when people search for that niche of yours, maybe it's forensic accounting, you're always popping up quickly when somebody who's the right customer for you is looking for you. We already talked about quick responses. Think about live chat and call answering if you struggle with that. And just make sure that you're always finding a way to really highlight what your real expertise is. This is a lot of detail. We're not going to go through all these little bits, we've been through a lot of this, but this is mostly for your reference later. But realize that one of the things that is important to millennials is that they often will work in a very, very fast and often remote or on the fly. A lot of them don't have brick and mortar locations. So whatever you can do to make it easy for them to work to you and remove any friction is ideal. So anything you can do to create Wi-Fi in your office, meet them at flexible times and locations is going to make you seem like a rock star. And I would say that's probably true for everybody, but for these folks who are running these flexible businesses, that's really helpful. Reach them where they are. If you can't get on social media because you don't have the bandwidth, hire us to do it for you. Make sure that you are capitalizing on every kind of digital ad that you can afford, right? Because the other thing is, for a digital native who's all over the online space, you can't just try to reach them in one place if you really want to have brand presence. A Gen X or a millennial is very likely to be watching Netflix on their laptop or a TV. If they have a TV, they're also probably on a tablet or a laptop while they're watching that show. And then they probably also have a phone by their side. So when you're trying to reach this person who's got 1,000 things happening all the time, who's totally comfortable with that, you need to be everywhere you can afford to be. You need a great website. You need to have SEO to make sure it ranks. Ideally, you should be running paid search ads in Google. You should be in the social space. You really need to kind of be everywhere you can afford to be. And that's what we specialize in helping you figure out how to do. It's like, how do I have the most presence? Because what you want is for them to see you kind of everywhere they go, so that they're getting lots of reinforcement that you are the person to go to. And that, if you think for a second, right, think about your favorite brand of clothing or your favorite car company, somebody you've interacted with recently, think about all the places you've seen that brand come at you. That is just because our attention is fractured, and it's just necessary nowadays. Just make sure that you're also realizing that being proactive is important. These are really busy folks with attention sort of everywhere, so you want to have an outreach campaign for sure. One of the solutions we sell is actually an opportunity that does automated reminders for folks. So you can send a text right to that super busy millennial entrepreneur being like, oh, don't forget, we come in, your quarterlies are due, and come on in on this date. We set up this appointment before, or let me know if I can meet you at Starbucks. So 4:34, we're a couple minutes over. Some of the other things that we can do to help you is to just sort of remind you that this is an important sector. You have a real vested interest in continuing to sort of build their network with really, I'm going to say Gen Xers and millennials, to be honest. And everything you do to digitize what you do is going to reduce friction and help you get there. So this is a list of things that we think you might want to reference. So you'll get an email with this link. These are all things on our website. Some information about how social media applies to your firm, about how to put together a strategy there, and what a social media post should look like in your space, and then really how to increase retention and lifetime value of clients, which really, if you're putting energy into finding this new client base, you have to make sure you retain them. So I'm going to share this out via email, and we'll be posting it on the website as well, so you can reference those for further feedback. And just a reminder that, we have solutions across all of these issues. We host websites, we sell SEO to make sure you're ranking, we run pay-per-click ad campaigns for people with absolutely no commitment, so you can turn on and turn off your lead generation as you need it. We run Facebook ad campaigns for folks. We will do social media management for you, and we can do automated reminders. It is SEO season right now. This is the time when you should be launching any SEO campaigns to make sure that they're really up and running for the height of tax season. But at the same time, we've also have some really fantastic specials happening right now for people who are looking for a semi-custom website solution, which is called Diamond, and pairing it with a social media campaign. So if you want to spiff up your look across your website and your social media space, I've got some amazing offers right now that your sales representatives and your account advisors can talk to you about when you're ready. So that is our last slide. I'm going to take a peek and see if there's any questions here that I can answer. We did go a couple minutes over, so thank you for your time, for those of you who are able to stay. Tiffany, I am not seeing any questions. Please let me know if you're seeing any that I don't see. I'm going to check one other place.
I do not see any questions as of yet.
All right, we'll hang out for another minute here. Tiffany, is there anything that I sped over that you had a question about? I want to make sure I didn't I didn't skip any good stuff. It's a pretty detailed presentation for the time we had. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we did get a question here. Very interesting. Thought a millennial was born after 2000. Jean, that's a great comment. I will tell you, I went to an entire 2-hour seminar with people fighting about where the breakdowns are between generations, and I can tell you that there are a lot of opinions about where they precisely are. However, it is definitely much earlier than that. And truly, the debate is, is the oldest millennial today 39, or is the oldest millennial today like 34 or 35? There is this theory that there's a generation in between Gen X and millennial called Xennials that sort of bridges that gap. I think once you start breaking people down into these decade chunks, the data becomes less actionable for us from a marketing standpoint. So let's see here. There was somebody who checked in as a boomer who thinks and acts like a Gen Xer. That is somebody who is going to do great in the next few years of business, because if you can really get excited about some of the changes that these businesses are bringing to the business landscape, you'll have a lot of success, and you'll enjoy the changes that are kind of coming to how we market ourselves and communicate. Let's see. All right, I think I want to see if any of the millennials were going to yell at me about getting anything wrong. I kind of expected some feedback, like, hey, what about this? But so far, no. All right.
Yeah, there's one question about the me generation in the 90s.
Yeah, that was, the me generation was a slang term for Gen Xers. There was this attitude early in the 90s when Gen Xers were really sort of becoming professionals, that they were super self-centered, and that was sort of like the negative trope around it. And really what you were seeing is sort of what you've seen fully executed in this sort of millennial decision making about career and family, which is to be a little bit more reserved, start families later, try to focus on careers that would be a better balance of income and life satisfaction, because the sort of opportunities to get into a company, work up through the ranks, have a pension, none of us have really had that option, to be honest. And so we've tried to strike a different deal. And so, yeah, the media put a really negative spin on it. And to be frank, then they kind of forgot about us. They kind of forgot about Gen X and just focused on millennials. But we are out there and we're running businesses too. Does CPA Site Solutions offer any app for clients to pay on the website? I'm sorry. It depends on what you need. That would be, I'm gonna say that question could go in a lot of different directions. So what would be great is if we could have somebody give you a shout and hone in on that question. So we do have an actual fully custom solution. So in some cases, what you're asking for would be something that we'd have to do a custom solution for, in some cases not. But we could have somebody reach out to you and get some detail on that question, then we could answer it for you definitely. If you want to drop your phone number here, we could give you a shout out. We do have the ability to do some plugins for some payment options, but we have to figure out if that's what you mean. I think that's it. I think we're good. I didn't see any other questions. Tiffany, do you see anything? Are we good to go?
Looks like we are good to go. No further questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody staying a couple minutes late. And yeah, if you want to talk to an account advisor, just put your hand up and we'll have somebody reach out to you right now. Thank you so much, and enjoy the long weekend.